back on Saturday, what pleases you the most about what you did defensively, specifically in the second half?
Yeah, the second half, I mean, my goodness. You certainly have a really, really good chance to win if a team does not, they don't score. Not only that, but just the field position that's generated because you limit first downs. And, yeah, I mean, wow. Now, it's a completely different challenge this week. And candidly, it helped having some guys that have been here for a while. I mean, you think about it. I mean, really, you look, Vince Sanford, T.D. Blackman, Chris Herrera. Those are three guys that we wouldn't have had if there was not the COVID year, and those guys were impactful.
You've given up one touchdown in the third quarter all season. I'm wondering, to what do you credit that?
Well, I mean, the amount that goes into the preparation that Brian and our defensive staff have done, and the improvement, the elevation of the players. I think you see it, first of all, in our communication. Just generally, you watch our guys on the field, and there's a good bit that they do to help a guy beside them that's pretty cool, and that takes time. If I'm playing shortstop and the more games I play, the more all of a sudden I start to let the center fielder know that it's a curveball and it looks like he's setting up outside, or, hey, Jesse, you got it if he steals, and, that takes time. But I'll tell you, all of a sudden, you're playing second baseman, I communicate like that. That makes you more confident, and you turn around and you share something with me. Now there's some gel, I mean, I'm not talking about the kind of stuff that goes in your, your wig. I'm talking about the synergy of a teammate. And I think the other part, too, is, you take a system and you're always trying to tweak it, change it, and improve it. And we've made that commitment to do that, especially on defense.
At what point did you realize that it was even a remote possibility that Alec Mock would be back in early November after what happened to him?
Probably about 2 weeks ago. Now, what ended up happening, when that thing sticks out of the skin, and there had to be an addition. There had to be 2 surgeries that occurred, and and the push to get to that point, and yet there's still a good bit of upside there physically, to have an off season to lift and to develop. In some ways, yeah, there's still absolutely some ascension that can occur.
New Mexico defensively still going 3-3-5, something like that?
Yeah, something like that. It's everything. I mean, yeah, something like that. You're right. Yeah, sometimes on 1 or 2 snaps.
So they altered from what Rocky is.
I'm going to find him before the game. I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen anybody that lines up in more variety. Now, there's probably also, I don't know if there's been a more impactful person on this league, not just football, but beyond that too. But we'll make sure we needle and a little bit prior.
What sort of challenges do his defense present, what you guys try to do?
They are very talented. A good number of those guys now are their third year in the system, yet they've also added some guys from outside the program. And they are a hard matchup for us on both, in all 3 facets. I mean, look at the returners. You have 2 different returners, punt returners that have had long gains. You look at a kickoff returner that, how good they've been in that area. And just offensively, I mean, we have really, really struggled against these guys. And again, it always starts with the talent, the ability level that they have. And We have a huge challenge defensively in terms of being able to tackle in the open field. And then offensively, just being sharp and being able to move the ball forward.
It's been a while since y'all have been at home, obviously, after the bye week and then y'all being in Texas. Would you say that throws the team off in any way, going, from away and then back at home?
I think if you were going to play 6 home games and 6 away games, often it probably happens in it almost, and not always, but every other game. Let's hope not.
You worry at all about just a letdown after, a game that means so much to everybody in this program after last week?
I think each game does, though, means a good deal. And does that mean that last year after that result there should have been a build-up or a letdown? I don't think so. I mean, I get that there ends up being a little more drama if we increase the peaks and the valleys. But I thought we were pretty solid last year when we played up at Fort Collins. Is that right? Yeah. It's just that's part of football. Hopefully you put a good bit into this week's game. And you ask me next Tuesday, you may not ask at that point. You might say, Coach isn't very good at handling that. He's not going to give us the response that we want, because I don't feel that way.
Yeah. So you don't have to remind your guys, like, hey, we've got New Mexico now. That was last week. Kind of thing.
You watch about 3 clips, and that's 2 more clips than you need to, and and the reality is you look back, golly, 2013, they thumped us. 2014, yeah, we won. 2015, we lost to them. 2016, we lost to them. 2017, you just look at how many times they've beaten us, just straight up, and how sizable those games were. Just the amount just the amount of yards that we gave up, and again, it goes to the open field part of it for our defense and offensively being able to progress and make some first downs. That'll be hard to do.
What challenges do they present offensively, New Mexico?
They do a good bit with the quarterback. And you can tell they've taken a little bit different approach here in about the last 3 weeks, too, just because they've made a change in terms of, how the offense is put together and with the play calling. So there's there have been some new wrinkles week in and week out, and I'm sure we'll see some on Saturday, too.
Curious, your punt returner rarely fields a punt and takes off. Is that by design, or is that,
Yeah, it depends, on how far we believe a punt will travel. That's part of it. Golly, it's probably no different in a kick return. That hasn't happened often either. The other part would be if it's into a wind. I think tactically, when you look at it, if a ball's into a wind, it's a shorter kick. Do you want the guys when you're setting up, whether it's a sideline return or a middle return now, that get a little bit closer to the punter? Fair question, because you're right. It rarely happens.
Is that analytics? Is that you studying this? And has that changed from the beginning of your career?
Oh, no doubt. And the reason why it's changed is I think if you looked at punt return numbers, the number of punt returns and the amount of yardage on punt returns, I think you'd see a drastic difference from now compared to 30 years ago. It's just rare that you see a punt return for a touchdown in this day and age. I'm not saying never. We work the heck out of it with our coverage. And why? I think the use of shield punt in college football is drastically different than the NFL. In the NFL, you can only have your 2 outside guys. They have to be on the line of scrimmage. That's why they get doubled with 2 gunners in front of them, is because nobody else can go downfield until the ball's punted. Where in college, that's different. So there's the evolution of the shield for the most part, and then being able to send 7 guys, make a quick check, and go.
Is it tough to maintain that discipline, to know, okay, the numbers say, let's fair catch this punt, but the competitor says, man, maybe we could break it,
Sure, yeah, sure.
Has that ever tempted you to change your...
Well, you aren't, everything's not number. The numbers are additional information, and It's no different than going through and picking percentages on coverages that you think you're going to see, or if a back lines up and they create a 3-by-1 formation, if he's on this side compared to that side, that changes some of the percentages too. But you still got to keep it alive, meaning the gut, the instinct part of it, and we will too.
And when you talking about Rocky Long, you said beyond football. What do you mean by that? What has his impact been beyond?
Golly, I mean, just the elevation of the league. You look at how many games they won and how many bowl games they went to at New Mexico. I mean, San Diego State is a university. A university might have an opportunity, and they deserve it real soon, to be in a league that completely, I won't say completely changes, but it definitely alters, the school. And you go back and you look why. I mean, golly, that was a huge part of it. I mean, just the level of play and the talent level and the consistency and the belief that was generated, and nobody drove that more than he did.
And are you still serving as the fullbacks position coach?
Yes,
well?
sir.
How has that, helped you to get to know Brad Roberts a little better, both as a player and, beyond that?
Yeah, I made the choice in 2019. I did it when I was going to be a position coach somewhere. And it might change next year where it's another spot. I just think when you do it, you are right in the middle of the players. And so if you're in a position meeting room and Brett says something to Jesse about how good the food was last night, that's good information. I want to know that. Or Jesse says, that tutor, I was hoping that tutor would help me a little more. You hear those things. And if you want as much as you can possibly gather, insight and information, you do it. But just to answer your question in regards to, he is so humble. I mean, his maturity, there's just nothing ever really that's flippant. And golly, I mean, as a human being, the other part is, just the dedication level that he has, and just such a real, he's as real as they come as a human being. And you just kind of naturally see that interaction as far as teammates go. And anything that ever happens, he makes some yards on his own too, but how many of those yards get redistributed, and just how fortunate he truly feels to have the teammates that he does. That's inspiring.
Because you've been so involved, has that helped monitor his workload a little bit, both in practice and then in games? Because he's had the ball as much as anybody who's ever gone here.
Yeah, he has. We watch it extremely closely. Literally. We have tally. I got a notebook, and there are tally marks if it's carries or contact plays or in practice, and it's by hand scratch. It's 4 dashes with a line across for the 5th one. The diagonal line, 4 dashes with a line across. There's got to be a way where we could recalibrate that probably.
And why'd you choose fullbacks?
Well, it was in what year was that? Was that 2 years ago? Yeah, 2 years ago. Or 3 years, at the beginning of 21. Ben had both the fullback and the tailback and the specialist when he was here. Ben Miller did. And when 10 came in and we had him take special teams, we just thought if we could break that one spot off. And so that's why we did it.
And then Jake Campbell works with slots.
He does.
Tim Horton does the tailbacks, and you do the fullbacks.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and I'll tell you going forward. I will always coach a position. I can't tell you if that'll be. The training I had being under Larry Coyer was the defensive coordinator with the Broncos, and was able to work with the linebackers there. My first year was an awesome experience, and so I can't tell you where.
Is that the first position you'd coached here?
No, I coached the Z's. In 2019, Jake and I had the Z's together. and I think he kicked me out. So,
But before that, you had just served as the head coach.
yeah, or called plays the first few years, and it's not the same. Just you aren't with the players, and I think you need to be with your guys. I don't think you can. And there are different viewpoints on that. I just think you have to be right in the middle of it.
And Jaden Thurgood's coming here, I believe, right? What can you we've never met him. What can you tell us about him?
Quiet to a degree. He had some other opportunities to go other places, and he can share that with you. He was a directed Met, a family that values service. His dad is has been a police officer for a while in a couple of different areas, and he's just now starting to discover, being Jaden, just some of the capabilities that he has as a football player, and we also just the impact that he can have on others, and that's natural. I mean, I think you go through. His freshman year was the COVID year, and so there wasn't there certainly wasn't a great deal of interaction. There were only 6 games that year. And academically, this place is hard, and he went to a really, really good high school and was clearly a directed Met. Yet, I think he's just gaining more confidence as a person, academically, and certainly as a football player, too. I mean, he made some plays the other day.
And what did he bring last year? Because you rearranged the defensive line kind of mid-season, right, with Jordan going in, and how did he allow some of that to happen?
We did rearrange, and yet we're a forever rearranging. It's not all right. You're the manager of the 27 Yankees and Miller Huggins. You say, all right, automatically Earl Combs is in center field and he's batting leadoff, and who batted second? Was it Joe Dugan or somebody was jumping? Joe Dugan was batting second, and Ruth was third, and Gehrig was fourth. Bob Musial. I mean, we just think you always have to have guys that can possibly handle other spots, and he is a guy that can handle other spots, and he'll have a little more on his plate going forward too, even though he might not quite know that yet.
Coach, I'm curious. Have you watched the Philadelphia Eagles play this year?
I really haven't. I think maybe 5 plays total.
I just thought they were running triple. It looks like they're running triple option a lot.
Are they really from the gun with Hurts?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't. I want to too.
Yeah.
Where'd I see? They're next Monday. They're playing.
Might get to watch a little bit.
Maybe, yeah. Sometimes you can catch about the last 8 minutes at 9 o'clock. So.
You have looked relaxed since you first started taking the field last year. Is that just the way we're seeing it, or have you been able to do that? And if so, how?
In practice, we're just trained for every scenario. So sometimes, practices are harder than the games. The looks that our scouts give us. After games, I'll come and I'll tell, the scout outside linebackers, I'll be like, you guys were better than the players we went against this week.
And as a guy who, the catch you had last year in the bowl game, how much did that help you this year, especially when you weren't, your action has been so irregular based on Kyle Patterson's health, to have that behind you? What has that done for your confidence and then helped you be ready, I guess, more?
It was just nice knowing, as a sophomore, I was able to make a play like that, and so it just helped me carry on to my junior year.
And both your parents went here, right?
They did. My dad and mom graduated in 2000. My dad was a running back, and my mom played volleyball.
How did that help when you arrived to have that to lean on?
I've always wanted to come here as a kid. I've always wanted to play football as my dream. So when I got offered, it was really good news. And then I've heard all the stories from when they were cadets, so it helped me transition here because I knew a lot coming in. There was nothing I didn't know.
When you committed, how many people reached out to you, from your dad's and mom's classes? What was that like?
A ton of people. I was excited. My parents were excited, and then all my parents' friends were excited that I was going there also.
Which high school did you go to?
Ralston Valley.
Okay, same as who else went?
Brad Roberts went to Ralston Valley.
Were you teammates with Brad?
He was a senior when I was a junior.
Oh, wow. Were you guys close at all at that point?
We were close. When he committed here, he talked to my parents, asking them about what his experience was going to be like, and it helped him make the decision to commit here as a fullback. And then he was talking to the coaches and helped me get recruited.
Wow. Have you been surprised at what he's done here, or did you have enough glimpses of that to predict it?
I've not been surprised. He was always a beast in high school, and it just carried on to college.
What was his personality like? And if you were, behind him by a year, was he kind of larger than life, or what was that like?
He's just a hard worker and really disciplined, and it just helps him in the game.
Now, with these next few weeks, traditionally over the past few years, you guys run heavily against New Mexico and Colorado State to where some other things open up. Do you think we'll see a little bit more, in the passing game and things like that, or do you even care?
It's always hard to know. Whatever's working is working. So if our run game's there, we're most likely going to run, and whatever leads to touchdowns, whatever plays help us win is what we're gonna do.
And what is the mindset like this week? Coming off such a high to playing a team that's 0-5 in the conference. The reality is what it is. Like, is it hard to gear up? Has anybody kind of stepped up as leaders and said, we have to do this, or is it just kind of, does everybody understand that?
Our mindset right now is we're just looking at the month of November, and so our motto right now is go undefeated in November.
How you doing, Caleb?
I'm doing good.
I know it was only the replica trophy of the Commander-in-Chiefs, but how cool was that moment, just knowing that you guys won it and that you'll actually get to see the real thing hopefully soon?
It was awesome. We've been so close the last 2 years, but close only matters in throwing grenades and horseshoes and dancing. So it was finally good to actually see it and win it for once. Coach Thiessen said we just need to find a way, and that's what we did. It was a hard-fought game, low scoring, 13-7, but a win's a win. So it was awesome getting to see the trophy.
Do you worry at all about perhaps a letdown just because of, last week was so emotionally fueled?
We're just trying to go undefeated in November, so it actually helped us, fuel us for the rest of the season. It gave us the confidence to work hard and play the rest of the year.
So is that something that you guys have constantly been saying to one another, hey, let's go unbeaten in November, or?
Yes.
Okay. What do you see from New Mexico defensively?
New Mexico defense is weird. They run everything. They run a variety of things. Usually when the other teams we've played this year, they maybe run one or two fronts, but New Mexico runs everything. You never know what you're going to get.
Telling us about your background. So your dad is a cop? Is that in the Chicago area?
Yeah. My dad used to be a cop for Lake Zurich, so that's the northwest suburbs. And now he just went to a new department. Now he's in the Chicago Heights area. So he's having fun with that. A lot more stuff going on, which I think he's enjoying.
What kind of area is that?
I believe that's in the southwest area of Chicago. But he's having fun with it. My grandma's there with him too, so he's having fun.
I think most people think Chicago cop. You're thinking about someone from a pretty tough mold. Is that what your dad's like? And
oh no, my dad's the way my dad grew up. He's been through a lot, especially growing up in the city. He's someone I look up to every day. Just everything he's done, I try to just come off of him.
How did that shape your upbringing? Coming from that.
Just coming up from that, just making sure I'm always grateful for everything he's done for me. Throughout all his stories that he's told me that he had to deal with growing up as a kid, and just making sure he wanted a different life for me.
And now going into service, how much did that kind of impact that? Seeing your dad serve community, is that part of why you're here? Or?
A part of it is why I'm here, because I'm the first person in my family to actually really serve, and be on track to serve for our country. Yeah, my dad's a cop, but I feel like since I always want to be like my dad, I'd take that one extra step a little bit, though, serve for my country. So.
And what other options did you have? Coach said it was not a given that they were gonna get you.
My biggest one was University of Cincinnati. That was a big one. But some things just don't work out, with the coaching and stuff like that. So I just chose the next best option for me and my future, really.
Were you did you opt out of Cincinnati, or did kind of things fall off on their end?
It was like a mutual thing, because I felt like when I had my visit there, it was not an environment I really wanted to be around. Just around those group of guys, it just didn't seem like me. So.
Got it. Was there any regret last year when they were in the playoff?
Oh no, it is what it is.
Yeah. And coming in, during the COVID year, and getting on the field a little bit as a freshman, like how much do you think that helped, your trajectory here?
Here, I think it helped me a lot because, it was just like helped me get comfortable with like getting a taste of like the game and the level of field here, especially at the college level. It's so different, everyone's D1 once you get here, but I feel like that's, helped me take a proper step to get to where I am right now.
And how cool was that last week, from the defensive front standpoint, especially to do what you guys did in the second half?
It was a great experience, especially since I never really got to play in the Surface Academy games until like this year. So like I didn't play last year against Army or Navy really. So this year was like really a good standpoint for me to like understand how that game is and what it means to our guys as seniors and stuff like that.
When you see the defensive numbers you guys have put up, are there any that give you kind of the most pride?
I'd probably have to go with the, for us as a perspective, we always make sure we hold to a team, maybe they're more of a rushing team. We try to hold them to at least amount of rushing yards they can, give or we can give. But I feel like that as a point is something where we try to make sure you're not running the ball on us. So.
Gene, I was wondering, I know it wasn't the actual Commander-in-Chief's trophy that you'll see here soon, but what was that like just being around the replica, winning the Commander-in-Chief's trophy last week?
It felt really good, especially doing it for our guys, who had their last opportunity to win that. For me, it was more of like, as long as I win it for my guys, I'm satisfied.
For the seniors.
For the seniors is what I mean.
Did you get a sense of how much it meant to them?
Oh, for sure. Especially my guy Chris Herrera, great dude. Someone who hosted me when I came on my visit here, or one of the guys. I also had Jordan Jackson, but he was one of my guys that was like, yeah, I got to win this for him.
All right, and then off of that, do you worry at all of a letdown just because last week was so emotional?
Slightly a little bit, but just had to attack the week to make sure like we're gonna win this week. There's no choice.
From what we understand, the goal now for the team is to go undefeated in November. Is that something that's been preached a lot this week, or?
We haven't really focused on that. I mean, every week we've just been focusing on just trying to get 1-0.
Yeah.
That's been our mentality, especially in the D-line room, just 1-0.
Have you seen much of New Mexico, and if so, what do you see from them?
We have. We just got to focus on, stopping the run. They have a pretty good, solid running back there. But that's, gun run option team. Just got to stop the run.